Hey, this is Duane Betts of the Allman Betts Band, and you're listening to Walking the Floor.
I'm walking the floor over you.
Walking the floor.
I'm walking the floor. Walking the floor over you.
Hola, senors and senoritas. This is Chris Shiflett. And once again, you are listening to Walking the Floor, episode 184 of Walking the Floor. We're closing in on that 200 episode mark. We got to do something special when we get up there. I hope your week's going well. We're back at you a little quicker. I'm trying to work through a backlog. I got a ton of interviews. I got more interviews than I have time to handle or process at this point. So they're getting kind of dusty, and I'm trying to get through it. So I'm going to step it up to about once a week. Moving forward until I get through all the old stuff, get into some new stuff. A little bit of some sad news this week. Lawrence Ferlinghetti, the poet, passed away earlier this week. And it reminded me, he was 101 years old, apparently. What a life. What a nice long life that guy led. For all you young folks out there, just Google Lawrence Ferlinghetti if you've never heard of him. Or Google beat poets, or Google San Francisco, Google anything. I don't know. Who am I fooling? Young people don't listen to this show. It's just a bunch of crusty old folks like me. Anyway, Lawrence Ferlinghetti passed away. He was a famous poet, kind of the last man standing of the beat poet generation from way back when. And it reminded me that my dad, John Shiflett, when he got out of the Navy in the late 50s, I believe, he moved to San Francisco, considered himself a bit of a beatnik, and I remember he had a few of Lawrence Ferlinghetti's books, and I remember him telling me that he had bought them actually from Lawrence Ferlinghetti, who was working the counter at City Lights bookstore when he went in there way back when, early 60s, late 50s. So I dug those out, and I thought, I'm no expert on poetry or anything, but I do enjoy a bit of poetry now and again, and I thought I would read you all a poem from one of my dad's Lawrence Ferlinghetti books. This is out of A Coney Island of the Mind. I don't know what this one's called. It's number 4. Goes a little something like this. In a surrealist year of sandwichmen and sunbathers, dead sunflowers and live telephones, housebroken politicos with party whips performed as usual in the rings of their sawdust circuses, where tumblers and human cannonballs filled the air like cries, when some cool clown pressed an inedible mushroom button and an inaudible Sunday bomb fell down, catching the president at his prayers on the 19th green. Oh, it was a spring of fir leaves and cobalt flowers when Cadillacs fell through the trees like rain, drowning the meadows with madness, while out of every imitation cloud dropped myriad wingless crowds of nutless Nagasaki survivors, and lost teacups, full of our ashes, floated by. Rest in peace, Mr. Lawrence Ferlinghetti. Like I said, this is my dad's old, well-worn, worn-out, falling-apart copy of A Coney Island of the Mind. But I bet you can find a decent copy of this still. I wonder if it's still in print. Who knows? I wonder if City Lights is going to continue without him. I sure hope so. I remember walking in there a couple times when I lived in San Francisco in the 90s. It's been there for a long time. All right, let's talk about Zounds.com. Did you know that Zounds has been around since 1996? If not, it all started way back when as a small retail shop and has since grown to become one of the biggest and best online musical instrument retailers on earth. So make sure you get on over to Zounds.com and get your plectrums and your strings and your, studio speakers and your outboard gear, whatever you need. Zounds.com, they got it, baby. Let's get to today's interview. When you listen to my conversation with Duane Betts, you can hear the wind blowing in the background. That's because he was out deep in the forest in Michigan somewhere on a family trip, but still took the time to sit down and talk to me about the latest Allman Betts Band record, Bless Your Heart, that I think had either just come out or was about to come out when we talked. If you haven't checked that out, you should definitely go listen to it. Allman Betts Band is a band that he formed a little while ago with Barry Oakley and Greg Allman's sons. And we talk a lot about the Allman Brothers' legacy and being the son of a legend and all that stuff. I've actually been meaning to do this interview, or wanting to do this interview with Duane since around the time that he put out his solo record a few years back, because I met him around that time when Foo Fighters played the Mumford & Sons Gentlemen of the Road Festival, and he was out there playing with Dawes, and I think we noodled around a little bit in the backstage before they went on. He's a great guitar player, and we have some mutual friends and stuff, so we just kept in touch, and we've been meaning to get to it, and we finally did, and here you go. From Malibu to Florida to Michigan, it's Mr. Duane Betts on Walking the Floor. Let's jump in on your new record, Bless Your Heart. I love that you're putting out, that you guys are putting out a double record in this day and age when nobody has an attention span. I applaud you, sir. I applaud you.
Yeah, man, it just kind of worked out that way. I mean, we had kind of talked about doing something a little bit, being a little bit more ambitious with it, and then it kind of got trimmed, and then at the last second, it kind of got back up to lucky number 13, so it turned out being a double. But
I mean, how does that work? Is that just like, did you guys just stockpile just too many songs to whittle it down? Like, what's
really?
Normal?
I mean, I'd like to have some like really interesting answer, but that's just the way it turned out. It just felt right.
Right.
We wanted to make more of a, just go a little deeper than the first one. The first one was, I think, 9, and one of them was a cover. Right. So, I mean, we thought it was cool. We thought the tunes all were different enough and complemented each other enough, and that it wasn't like this arduous, listen, and so it just turned out that way,
I always imagine bands in the studio like the Clash making Sandinista or something, and you're like, fuck, we're like 2 songs shy of this triple record. What are we going to do? We got to write something quick.
Yeah, I mean, well, like Billy Corgan probably with Melancholy, I mean, he probably had like 70 more songs. And
right, yeah.
Right, you know what I mean? Yeah. I don't know what the number was, but that's a great example of like, I mean, I think he probably set out to do that and then just over knocked it out of the park,
Well, it's a sign of a happy band, I suppose, when you've got, more than you need. It's always better than less.
Yeah. I mean, it was really fun making it. I mean, these records, we go into Muscle Shoals and go right to 2-inch tape and just kind of get live performances. And, I mean, I've really enjoyed the process of making these 2 records with Matt Ross Spang. I mean, he's got great instinct and
I love Matt. He engineered a record for me a few years ago, and I just fell in love with working with him. He's so cool.
Great engineer. Yeah.
What's his like? I haven't worked.
Great with producer. He produced our records, so I should say great producer.
What's his approach as a producer? Because he's producing a lot nowadays.
To just make you feel comfortable and tell you when it's good and tell you when it sucks. and then you trust him because he's the man, and then you're no, I mean, he makes you feel comfortable. I mean, he has great feel, I mean, for a track, and I mean, there's a lot of stuff that there's a lot of stuff that he'll just make you leave it. It'd be like, well, leave it, and if we come back to it in 3 days or 2 days, let's get some other stuff done. And if you still don't like that solo, then you can recut it. But otherwise, man, there ain't nothing wrong with that. And I feel like like Mark Ford is kind of the same way. Working with Mark a little bit, he's like, I don't hear anything wrong with that, and you're like, well, actually, I like it too. It just didn't. It felt like I could have done better when I did it, but it actually fits perfectly,
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's the joy of working with a producer you trust right there, because sometimes you can just, being the musician, you get lost in it. But are you, like, when you guys are recording this stuff, are you tracking solos live too?
Some of them, yeah, we're tracking everything live. But I went back on this record. I went back and recut a few of them. I kept quite a bit of them live, but I did go back. One of them I went back and recut because I thought it would be a great idea. I just used the wrong guitar. I actually used a Strat. I wanted to go for like this Jerry kind of thing, a single coil thing, and it sounded cool. But Devin told me, man, I really miss you on that Les Paul on that song. And I kind of was like, I almost kind of got in an argument with him about it outside. I mean, not a real argument, but I kind of like got a little like annoyed, like quit telling me that. And then I slept on it, and I was thinking about it like right when I woke up. I was like, man, what if he's right? What if he's right? So I went back and recut that. That was Magnolia Road, the solo on that. But a lot of it's live. I mean, my solo on Savannah's Dream, the really long one, that whole track is completely live.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, how do you set a track like that up? Like, is that the one? Is that like the 12-minute?
That's the instrumental, yeah.
Right,
it's like 12 and a half minutes, yeah.
How do you guys approach something like that? Like, do you just kind of sketch out the chord changes with the band and then just let her rip, or do you spend a lot of time kind of working those parts out? I mean, to me, like, I've never played in a band that has big, long, drawn out, kind of improv-y jams.
Well,
and I always wonder, because you hear something like that, and to my ear, it sounds very worked out, and like it's like loose and worked out at the same time. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
well, it's
nice
loose
balance.
because that's about like the fifth time we played it as a band, right. Honestly. I mean, a lot of this stuff we were working out in sound checks, being on tour prior to, but that one was one that they had heard it, and we messed around with it one time in sound check, like with the full band, and then we kind of let it sit. And then we had, we'd been going through some stuff and getting voice memos and stuff in sound checks to send to Matt. And that was just one that we just kind of left it towards the end, right before we went into the studio to tackle. We were in Nashville. We had a day or two there, and we played it, in a small room, and yeah, I mean, it was the parts. I mean, I think Johnny did most of the harmony with me. Devin did the main theme harmony, the main harmony theme on that, and we just got a take, and it felt good, and everything was there. And sometimes you don't, I'm sure it'll grow and evolve, live. But it's not like we were playing that song live for 6 months, like in the old days. I mean, we didn't really want, I don't want everything out on YouTube so people hear the record on YouTube of like some crappy cell phone video before they hear the actual record,
Sure.
So,
well, we don't have to worry about that now, do we?
No.
Yeah, because touring's been canceled.
Yeah. Well, drive-in shows are we just did a couple drive-in shows. Which
really? How'd that go? How does that feel? Like when everybody's...
It feels weird, but it was... I'll tell you, the second one we did an early show and a late show, and the nighttime show, they had like the tree line lit up with like a purple... It had kind of this festival vibe, and the cars were... everyone's out of their car, but spaced from the other car with the people out of that car. So it was... it was done properly and responsibly, and also it was killer. The first one we played was in Cape Cod, and that one didn't, there's a bunch of rich people really close, and so there was no PA, and we had to play pretty quiet, and they listen in their cars on the radio.
Oh, wow.
Well, they were out of their cars, but I guess they had their radios blaring or something. But
right, with no PA. Interesting.
Yeah, no PA. So we'll see how long they can make that last. They might have to go to acoustic shows. But
how did Allman Betts Band come together? Like, how did you guys? I assume you and Devin have known each other your whole lives, right? Were you close growing up?
Well, we're family, but we weren't really seeing each other. It was like we'd see each other in the summers. You know what I'm saying? We didn't live in the same city.
You grew up in Malibu, right?
Well, okay. I grew up in Florida, actually. I was born in Sarasota, Florida, raised there. Then I moved to Malibu when I was about 12 years old with my mom. Okay. And then I went back, and I was actually homeschooled through like my high school years. I was homeschooled on the road. I had a tutor that would come out, and then I started sitting in with the band with, obviously with the Allman Brothers Band when I was about 15, I think. And and then yeah, I've always been a resident of either Florida or California, but I have roots in both. Let's say that.
So where did Devin grow up?
Devin grew up in Texas, born in Corpus Christi, Texas.
So would you guys did you grow up like hanging out together on summer tours, that kind of thing?
Well, we met in '89. So '89 was the year the brothers got back together for their 20th anniversary. They put out a box set, and that's when we met. That's when Barry Oakley Jr., where all three of us met.
So what led to the three of you coming together as a band now, or over these last few years? Just
kind of timing. I mean, Devin is real like forward thinking, like thinking 3 steps ahead, and he would hit me up about doing something. Actually, it's funny that you're asking, because that show we played when I was with Dawes.
Yes.
When we played the Gentlemen of the Road in Washington, and you guys were the headliner.
Yes.
That was one of the conversations I had with him. I remember he called me that day, and I was having a conversation with him about it. And I was like, well, I'm with Dawes right now, and I'm not really like, I'm kind of a touring member. I'm not like a full-fledged member of the band, but I really like it. And and he was really busy. He was making solo records, and he was in a band with Cyril Neville and called Royal Southern Brotherhood, and so he was really busy too. But then I left Oz, and then I wanted to put out a solo record, because I had never done that as far as me singing and stuff.
Yeah.
So I wanted to really do that. So I had some stuff laying around. I put that together, and then it kind of coincided with Devin putting a tribute concert together for his father, who had recently passed. So, and he invited me to come to that as a guest, and then he invited me to be the opening act for him, and then we would jam together. And that was 2018, and I put out my little record, and then we kind of had a jam every night, and I'd open up, and then he'd do, we'd have a jam at the end in 2018. And then that's when we were like, okay, let's try to write something, and we started writing some songs, and then we put the band together.
I mean, how is that? Like, when I think of songwriting, I think of
we never had to do it. Like the best way, we never like. In fact, I kind of shied away from it because it's awesome, but you get, when you put 3 kids of that were you get that a lot, and you get it.
Sure. Like, is that like, I was going to ask you about that, like what that is like for you guys as a band now to whether you like it or not, you're carrying a legacy.
Yeah, you have to just, I mean, sometimes, I'll be really honest, sometimes I can, if I'm not in the right mood, sometimes it can rub me the wrong way, and then I have to think, well, wait, are you complaining that your dad was in like one of the greatest rock and roll bands? I mean, would you rather he was in Air Supply, or, I mean, no offense to Air Supply, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
sure.
Like, so, yeah, I mean, people, there's always going to be that narrative, but if you're putting out your craft and it's worthy, then, you don't have to be as big as this, or win as many Grammys as that, or be, sell out as many stadiums. Just do your thing and not worry about it. And it's a proud legacy. I mean, we're all very proud, to be, and I love, and on the other hand, then I'm like, if you took that torch away from me, I'd probably be pissed off. I enjoy carrying the torch. I just don't want, you want
to carry it on your own terms, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. I guess that's the way to put it.
I mean, had Devin and Barry Oakley's son, had they spent time, like, growing up when you guys were younger, sitting in with Allman Brothers?
Well, they're a little bit older than me. Right. Yeah, we all had sat in. In fact, it was my father's idea, because I don't think Barry ever met his father, or if he did, I don't want to speak out of line. I don't know, but if he did, he doesn't remember. But so my dad reached out to him and said, "Hey, I want you to come on tour with us for a couple weeks or whatever."
Right.
And then he sat in, and Devin sang with the band early on, and I was a drummer actually, so I sat in on drums.
Oh, really?
But that was a little different because there's two drummers, and you get to kind of hide behind it a little bit. You don't have to drive the whole band.
Right.
But then getting out there and playing guitar when I was a little older, about 15, I think was the first time I sat on guitar.
Well, it's interesting though, because that really kind of creates a different dynamic when you think of it in context of sort of carrying a torch or the legacy of the Allman Brothers Band, because you guys, you know, were immersed in it in that way. You know, it's different, I think, than other children of famous musician. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean, I grew up around it. It was family to all of us, but it was kind of like, you know, I mean, you know how it is when you're on the road. It's when traveling family, but especially with that band, it's such a family-oriented thing, you know.
Does Allman Betts Band throw in any Allman Brothers tunes live? Like, do you get
play some? Yeah, we usually play. You know, we switch it up. You know, we do a few. You know, we'll do 2 or 3, and you know, and we'll play for 2 hours or 2.5 hours. You know, so, but yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I think it's about the balance. You know,
right?
I don't want to have to play them every night, and I don't feel like I have to. You know, I feel like for the time being, I'm more than happy to, and I really love playing them. I wouldn't want to play any more than we play, but
given the family nature of the whole thing, I was thinking, like, did any old grudges between your dads ever creep into conversations with your current bandmates at all?
No, I mean, we talk about it. I was actually just talking about it. My wife's father asked me. I mean, he's like a really cool dude. He's like a bow hunter, deer hunter. Yeah. And, you know, we're visiting them up in Michigan right now, and we're out on a lake, and he just showed me his property. And then we get back, and we're sitting there having a drink out on the back porch. And he goes, "Hey, so what happened between those guys and your dad's band?" You know, and I was like, honestly, I don't know. I don't think anyone really knows exactly, you know, and it's kind of none of our business, really, you know?
Right.
But,
yeah, sure. I mean, were you around because you toured with your dad?
Yeah, I grew up. I was homeschooled. I mean,
were you touring with him through those years?
Through the 90s, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, from like 8th grade, I went to 7th grade. I went to middle school in Malibu, and then I moved back to Florida with him. And he was like, "I want you to move back to Florida." And I was like, "Hell no! I just moved out here, and I finally got comfortable, made new friends, and now I'm." And he's like, "Oh, by the way, you're going to come out on tour with us, and we'll get you a tutor." And I was like, "Hell yeah!" Because I loved touring. I mean, I was when I'd go out for 2 weeks or the whole summer, you know, before that, I had just gone out in the summer, and when it was time to come home to start school, I was a mess. I like, I just want to go back on tour. It was so great. So through the mid 90s up until about 97, I'd say I was out for everything, you know.
I mean, I have to ask, like, how hands-on was your dad with teaching you guitar? Was he involved? Like, did you ever sit down, like, literally go, like, point to something on an Allman Brothers record and go, "How did you show me that"?
He was involved very much, and he gave me a lot of really valuable insight. Right. But it's kind of a joke to this day, but I really didn't want to. I wanted to learn a lot on my own.
Right.
You know, so I think I listened to records. You know, I had a huge CD collection. I listened to CDs or records in all day and practiced for hours on hours, and then I'd wake up and then I'd do it again, and so I would play to records and just train my ear and learn licks and stuff. I mean, that's what a lot of people do, but he taught me a lot. He taught me about, like, about transmitting like something greater than technique. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like playing to nature. Like
Right.
go sit by a
magic.
Yeah, go sit by a river, and play to that, and the leaves falling off of a tree. Like if you can emulate that stuff, I mean that's beauty. So then if you can really capture that, then you can convey the beauty of through your instrument, and that's art. So that's kind of what he taught me, those ideals with playing. I think he said something like, go play to nature and try not to offend it, is kind of the way he put it.
That's good advice for a guitar player. Oh, it's I always like to ask that question of the offspring of musicians that become musicians themselves, because I have 3 boys, and at this point, and they're 3 teenage boys, and none of them have caught the music bug. So I'm always wondering, what other people's experience, like how other parents approach that. Because I'm kind of torn. Like I would love for my kids to be musicians, but I don't want to push it on them too much. And I've tried not to, and I've kind of, I don't know. So now that none of them seem to be gravitating to it, I feel like I've failed in some way. But I feel like, somebody as immersed in music, and like your dad's music in particular, as I assume you kind of were growing up, did you ever sort of push back against that? Did you ever have like a, want to do something, just want to
Not
get
really.
away from it,
Not really. I mean, I listened to a lot of different types of music that had not much to do with that music, but I never rebelled against it, I wouldn't say. I mean, when I was like 15 and Nirvana hit big and Smashing Pumpkins, I mean, I was playing all of that stuff with a fuzz pedal, but I was also listening to Stevie Ray Vaughan and old blues records. I don't think, you don't, it's not, just because I listen to this doesn't mean I don't listen to that, But
that's a good place to be, because I have to tell you, I was the exact opposite. When I was a little kid, I was like, I listen to this and only this and only this all the time and not that.
Yeah, I mean, I was just listening to as much as I could back then, Yeah. I was going and buying, I was an assistant guitar tech. I was making pretty good money. I was making like $500 a week, I think, if I remember properly, for the summer. And then I'd go spend all of my money at Tower Records or whatever record store was around at the time, and go buy a shitload of CDs. And so that was kind of what it was like. I mean, I just tried to absorb as much as I could,
It seems like Malibu at that time, when you were talking about living there, was like fertile ground for musicians, between like you and Orby and that White Star band that you guys had.
That was later, yeah. That was when I was in my 20s. But
I was thinking like that, and then like the Dawes guys and like Blake Mills. Like there's a lot of like really amazing musicians came out of that. It seemed like, from an outsider looking in, came out
Absolutely.
of that.
Well, Malibu has a pretty cool history with rock and roll, and I mean, I don't even know it, most of it, but Buffalo, Springfield, and Topanga, that area. I mean, I know old locals, old dudes that grew up in Malibu and born in 1951 in Santa Monica Hospital and just lived their whole life in Malibu, that used to watch Buffalo Springfield rehearse, down on Topanga Beach and that kind of stuff, and then in the 70s, and, Dennis Wilson and Mick Fleetwood and, all of these cool people. And I mean, there's a lot of, Blake and the guys in Dawes are really talented. And
like, where were you guys all playing at that point? Because I gotta tell you, I grew up, going to like the rock and roll shows in Hollywood and around that scene, like in the 80s. There was more, I'm a few years older than you. And I moved to LA at the beginning of 90 and moved to some shitty apartment in Hollywood, and was, sort of heartbroken to realize upon moving to LA that like that whole scene had come and gone. And it was just like, Hollywood was kind of a ghost town. It was sort of
like the hair scene, or the...
Yeah, like, like when I was real young, like junior high, I started coming down to like heavy metal shows and all that sort of stuff.
Sure, yeah.
Troubadour and the Whiskey and Country Club out in Reseda and all those clubs. And then, the sort of like glam rock, back to basics rock and roll thing through the mid to late 80s. But when I got here in 90, it was like all that had kind of come and gone. And like you wound up, your band, my band at the time, would get a gig playing on like a Tuesday night at the Coconut Teaser to nobody, and there was just no scene. You know what I mean? Like,
did that.
But it sounds like there was a scene still in the '90s in Malibu. But where was it? I
mean, really, if you really want to talk about the scene in Malibu, like the true scene and the magic times, was the band I had with Orby, with Alex Orbison, called Backbone, and that was before. And Blake actually was like 14 then, and he probably has some funny stories about it. But anyway, there's this kid in Malibu who's like amazing. He's like 14, and so we started having him sit in with us. So we would do, like, we opened up for, Skynyrd on New Year's Eve, like 1999, 1 year, with Donovan Frankenreiter's band Sunchild, and I don't know if you know Donovan.
Sunchild, oh yeah.
Sure. Yeah, so the three of us played together, us and Donovan's band and Skynyrd and Blake. Blake was there. He sat in with us, and so those years, like 97, 98, 99, 2000, those were really kind of magical, kind of summer of love years out there. And it was like not what you would think, when people get an idea of Malibu, they think of movie stars, and like,
it wasn't cocaine and chicks in bikinis.
Oh no, it was that. It just, well, yeah. So it is exactly. It is exactly what you would think of in Malibu. But yeah, it was earthy. It was like a little hippie. It was like tough, like hot rods. I mean, well, but other people that don't know Malibu don't think of it like that.
It's funny, I mean, all beach towns have some kind of common thread. All like West Coast California beach town. I grew up in Santa Barbara, and
that's a nice one, a nice town, huh?
But they have that thing. There's sort of an underbelly and an edge to all of them that people don't really believe exists. But I can only imagine. Yeah,
it exists. It still exists, I would assume. I mean, those days are long past for me. I mean, I've been sober for almost 4 years now. But
oh, nice.
Yeah.
Me too. I've been sober since, I don't know exactly how long. December of 2006, I think, was my.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I had to do something different. I mean, I couldn't. I don't think I'd be where I am today if I was still.
I just want to remember all the stupid shit I say. You know what I mean? That's where it came down to for me.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun though, man. Those years were great, but yeah, I mean,
did you grow up surfing out in Malibu? You surf at all?
I don't really surf, man. I mean, I have surfed and I want to surf. I don't know. I was always just playing music, and I mean, honestly, like back then I was partying and playing music and rehearsing and playing music, playing gigs and partying. And
I asked Taylor from Dawes the same question when I interviewed him. He also said,
"No, he definitely."
What the fuck was going on with you guys out there?
Well, I'm not from Malibu. I'm.
There's surf in Florida. There's surf in
Florida.
There
is. Well, I'm from the Gulf Coast, so I didn't grow up. If I would have grown up,
probably surf on the Gulf Coast right now, I'm guessing.
Definitely, yeah. No, I know a lot of people in Florida that do surf, and they do surf on the Gulf Coast, but.
Hey, let's jump into something specific, and okay. I love your slide guitar work.
That's Johnny. That's
not you on there?
No, we have 3 guitar players on this record.
No, I have this memory of you playing beautiful slide guitar in the Foo Fighters jam room at that show you were talking about, that Gentlemen of the Road show. Am I remembering that wrong?
I mean, I can play a little slide. It probably wasn't me though, because I don't.
That just fucked up my whole question. I was going to ask you for a deep dive on your slide technique, man.
I can text Johnny for you. No, he is a bad dude. I mean, we've got a really we've got 3 guitar players in the band, and it's cool because we all get to have our space to play, you know?
Right.
And, you know, Johnny plays all the slide. If you hear slide, it's him.
Okay. Slide is like a mysterious part of guitar playing that I love, and I've never been in a band that has room for, you know, that just stylistically, that's just not something like in Foo Fighters or whatever. It's just not something that's called for often. And so I've never really spent a lot of time doing it or getting comfortable doing it or ever developing the confidence to do it. There's something about, you know, playing without holding down frets. That
honestly, I'm the same way.
It terrifies me. And I would say that, so that's kind of what I wanted to get a sense of for me. I feel like I would have to like go like play nothing but slide in a band live on stage for like a year to ever really wrap my head around it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way. Honestly, I've gotten good enough. I mean, I've done it. You know, I did some acoustic slide stuff at a thing with Chuck Leavell. I did a tune of my dad's actually that he wrote that was on Brothers and Sisters called Pony Boy, and I did kind of a little rendition of that with Chuck, and it was terrifying. It was terrifying, but I wanted to do it. But yeah, I mean, the slide thing is I'm not the greatest, you know. I try to get better, but Johnny's on stage with me every night, so I don't really. It's hard to push yourself when you just know that someone's gonna be the guy that can do it better right next to you.
Totally. I mean, I think that's so true. Like, that, I mean, for me as well, it's hard to go out and do that when you've already been playing guitar like for a long time, and you know you're gonna fall on your face a lot. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's scary. One of these days, you and I need to form an all slide guitar band and do nothing but do that for a year, and then we'll get really fucking confident at it. Related to that, let's talk about gear. People love a deep dive on gear. What's your rig? Like, what's your setup?
Really, really minimal.
Really?
Super minimal. Yeah, I barely use anything. I mean, I like effects and stuff, and I would use more, and I probably will use more like next record or something, you know, because you got to change it up a little bit. But I just try to get. I mean, I play through like a 65 blackface super reverb that Derek Trucks gave me as a gift, and I have a few, but that's the best one. That's my favorite. That's the best sounding one I have. And I have
that on the road with you.
Yeah, that's my main deal. And then on this record, I actually
hot rodded at all, or is it?
Yeah. Well, I just had it retubed. It sounds great. Well, it did sound great last I played through it 6 months ago, but and it probably still sounds great. But yeah, I mean, you take that tube out. I don't know what tube it is out of the you know, the non-reverb channel. And then it makes it so you can't use that channel, but it drives the other channel a little bit hard. The channel that has the reverb and the lid and everything. So yeah, I have my amp set up that way. And then I use I just use a little boost, and sometimes I'll use a little slap or a little delay. But I really try to keep a lot out of the line, you know.
Really? So you're not like fucking around with flangers and phasers and all kinds of crazy psychedelic shit?
No, there's none of that. I mean, I used to, and I would. I mean, I like the sound of a cool, like a small stone or a old kind of phase pedal for a certain thing. But I didn't feel like it needed it with this record, with all the different textures of just what we have in the band, because it's a 7-piece band.
Right.
Just keyboards alone. I mean, I don't know. I kind of come from that line of thinking, you know, you just plug into your amp. I mean, that's what my dad pretty much did. That's what Duane Allman did. That's what anybody that played in the Allman Brothers does. I mean, they don't use anything.
But are you like rolling the volume up and down to gain it up or not? Like, are you controlling a lot of that on your guitar itself?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in the studio, it's different because obviously you don't need to. You can turn up your guitar all the way and just have it be the sound, and the amp is in the other room. And
right.
But live, I mean, yeah, I mean, with the Super, I have the boost. I mean, I kind of turn the amp up about all the way, you know?
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, just turn the amp up about to 9. I mean, some people say it sounds better at 9 than all the way up.
Right.
You know, but
I always thought 7 was the magic number on those.
7, yeah.
But I'm thinking more of like a deluxe deluxe reverb instead of
Yeah, I mean, 7's good. 7's fine. I mean,
Right.
I can play it. I mean, if I have to play it really quiet and I'm using that amp, I mean, I can turn it down further and use a boost pedal. I mean, it's still.
What's your boost pedal? What boost pedal you got?
On that, I think I was using a King of Tone. I just use one side of it, so it's the amp really overdriven with that tube out, and then I think I was using, like on Savannah's Dream, I was using the right side of that pedal, and then I used a fuzz pedal. I forgot what fuzz pedal it is, but on Should We Ever Part, my friend JD Simo gave me a fuzz pedal, and it sounds really cool. It's on. You can, I mean, if you listen to that song, you can definitely tell what I'm talking about, but it sounds really cool. I just used it for that one song. And then I play acoustic guitar on like The Doctor's Daughter, which has that kind of George Harrison, Pink Floyd vibe. Barry sings that one, and Barry's actually on piano on that one. He moves from bass to piano, and Devin moves from guitar to bass. And then I'm in the other room, playing a old late 40s Martin D28 that my dad gave me. Is the best sounding acoustic that I have.
Yeah, I bet.
And so I'm playing that and doing kind of this cool kind of Spanish diminished stuff, and it kind of goes off into this fade out live performance. The band just kind of fades
what about electric guitars? Like, what electric guitars are you?
On this record, I'm using the Gold Top, which is my dad's prototype. It's number 2 of his signature model. You know, that came out around 2001, I'd say. And then I'm using on this record a lot. I'm using the 335, which is probably the best sounding. Johnny actually calls it the Les Paul killer. So. Right. Yeah, that thing sounds great. So, and then I think I played the Strat. I have a hardtail Strat, an old hardtail Strat that I played on Much Obliged, which is the song that Devin's singing, kind of like lower, kind of baritone, Johnny Cash. Yeah, which is kind of a little strange at first, but I like that song a lot. So I'm kind of doing volume swells throughout that, you know, and kind of doing like finger picking, kind of Western, kind of gallop picking, you know. And then Matt Ross Spang is actually playing acoustic rhythm on some of the stuff too, and he has amazing feel. We already talked about that.
Wow. So, I don't think I've ever heard Matt actually play an instrument in the years.
He plays acoustic guitar like for your mama's ass, like.
Really? No shit.
Yeah, no, just his feel. He plays that kind of Al Green, Bill Withers, like real slinky.
He's got that Memphis groove thing.
Yeah, well, yeah. So that's pretty much it as far as what I used. Yeah, I mean, I just plug in, you know, with me, it's really about getting a pure tone, you know. Yeah. That connection to like nature, kind of that like the purity of like a river running or what have you. So
you don't want to offend the falling leaves off the trees with janky tone.
Exactly.
Well, thanks, buddy. I mean, is anything else you wanted to cover that we didn't get to? That was that covers it.
Yeah, man. No, that was great. Yeah, the record is out. I guess whenever this comes out, it'll be out. So
right. Go listen to the record, people. You heard it here first.
It's called Bless Your Heart.
Nice. Well, it's a great record, and you know we've been talking about getting together to do this interview. I think since you put out your solo record, so we finally got her done. From the woods of Michigan. I like it. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. All right, buddy. Well, I'll talk to you soon then.
Yeah, I'll see you out there somewhere.
All right, man. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, was Duane Betts from the Allman Betts Band. Make sure you go listen to Bless Your Heart. Great record, great dude, great guitar player, all around, wonderful guest. And we will be back in 1 week. And I don't know who we're coming back with. I think it might be Tommy Emmanuel. But I got to dig through the files and check it out. So we'll see you soon, kids. Adios, amigos!